I will sit in the front.
Good afternoon. My name is Rich Latham, and as president of the board, I'm here to welcome you to the 2026 State of the Club presentation. I have had the great fortune to begin as president with Bill Langley here, and I learned a whole lot from him. And to be in a time of transition and to have gotten to know Robbie Ames, this has been a great year for me. This is also a great year for the club, as excuse me, as we've begun the strategic planning process. Long-Range Planning Committee, chaired by Bill McLaughlin and Brian Sutherland, if you're here, and the board have been working with our consulting partners from Club Benchmarking to develop a series of activities and steps to engage the membership in the direction of where this club is going to go. The process will help us assess where we are now, determine what's working and what needs tweaking, determine a path towards a future, or what the future ought to look like, and a path towards that future. This is going to be some fairly exciting times. The first major activity that will happen will be focus groups to be conducted on February 9, 10, and 11. When Robbie gets up here in a bit, he'll have a little bit more detail perhaps on that. The focus groups will be also supplemented with a phone survey for members who are unable to participate in the focus groups. So we intend to get commentary through focus and phone survey from almost 200 members of the community. So that'll give us a good place to start. From the information that we gather from the focus groups, we will move on to developing a survey. But I do want to say this about the focus groups. No members of the Long-Range Planning Committee nor the board will be participating in the focus groups. We want this to be done in a way that is bottom-up and data-driven and run by the membership at large. That's very important to us in the process, and we learned a lot from our partners from Club Benchmarking in that respect. So from the information we gather on the ground from focus groups and surveys, we will develop a comprehensive member survey that will be distributed to the entire membership in early March. And the results of that survey will guide us in the process of developing and modifying our current strategic plan and long-range plan. My real purpose here tonight, though, is to be an introducer of our featured speaker. A year ago now, Bill Langley spoke and did his final State of the Club presentation. Do know that Bill is doing well in retirement, although he's not really retiring. He's consulting all over the place at this point, apparently. And he sends his best wishes to the Quail Ridge family. But it gives me an honor and great pleasure to introduce to you our new general manager and chief operating officer, Mr. Robbie Ames.
Well done, sir. Well, thank you, Mr. Latham. Good afternoon, everybody. I hope you can hear me okay, if that's yes? Wonderful. So I'm one of these next generation people that need to have their phone in their hands. Not quite. This is my cheat timer that I have so that after 22 minutes or 28 minutes and I see people yawning, I will know it's time for me to wrap it up and get going. So hang on one second. Oh, I'll just put it in my pocket. How about that? Perfect. Okay. So here's the agenda, if you will, for this afternoon. And okay, yeah, the agenda is as follows. You'll see it. I'm going to run through several slides, give you a sense of what we accomplished in the last year when Bill was your general manager, what we're looking forward to going in the future, and then some interesting slides that I think you would garner some great information from. Clearly, this is my first presentation to you, so it's a little difficult for me to talk about last year when my first date was only August the 18th. This is not Bill Langley approved, but it is Andy Translow approved, and Andy was kind enough to put the year-end in review for us. So besides changes, At the senior management level, we had two big changes, if you will, this year. One being the new director of agronomy, that's Blair Kirby. If you think I have an accent, I would encourage you to go ahead and meet with him, and his Australian accent will come out as well. And then Andy Translow, who's our CFO, now has a new right hand as a partner, and that's in Janelle Smith, and she is our new controller, and she started in June. So those are two just changes we wanted to kind of keep you apprised of. Besides myself being a new face, there are always going to be new faces, just like there are new faces with members. Okay, so financial results from the last year. I would say when you're trying to land a $35 million airplane and you could get it to within $46,000, I would say that's an achievement in itself. And while the year had started off nicely, and when I say the year, I'm talking financial year, which began on October the 1st, October, November, December looked great. I think you all know what happened in January with geopolitical, if you will, issues. And we saw, if you will, a slowdown of those coming to visit, those new members coming to the club to look at possibly joining. It almost came to, I wouldn't say a screeching halt, but a slowdown. And so Bill and the team did a very nice job in getting it back to a loss of $46,000. So that's an achievement in itself. But on the positive, you had real estate, if you will, having a positive variance of $82,000. So when you put the two of them together, it actually turned out to be a positive year of $35,300, or if you will, 1% of your $35 million. I didn't make these numbers up. You're going to see all of these numbers in your audited financial report or your annual report, which you will get in March later this year. And I believe Andy RSM is our partners as it relates to the audit. That's correct. Okay, beautiful. So the overall change in net assets. And so why do we put this up? Because really and truly, the member equity is so important because it's your club. And so the red flag for you as members, if you belong to another club, is if your membership equity is going down or decreasing, I would suggest that you start looking elsewhere, and you may want to look at getting out. Because to have a negative membership equity suggests that your club is not reinvesting. That's not the case here at Quail Ridge. It's been unbelievable with a new with an increase of 2.8 million or 5.2%. And that just shows, if anybody were to be looking at it, is that there's constant reinvestment happening in the club. The reinvestment comes from new members. There are 32 new members this year, or if you will, finishing September the 30th of 2025. But as a comparison to the previous year, you only had 35 memberships. And I'll talk about that a little bit later, because in my mind, a lot of people will say, well, gosh, I've been here for years, and I remember the days where COVID you had 100, or there was a year we had 70, or I thought the average was 45. You'll see a table that will suggest to you what has happened over the years. But important note, capital contributions, if you will, was slightly less than the budget. And then also, like I talked about of the turbulence, we started off fantastically well. Okay, and so October, November, December, you had 7 new memberships sold last year. This year, in the same time period, we've had 9. So we're actually in a positive trend. But like I said earlier, January 2025, it all came to a halt. All right? So your end of your equity position at the end of the year was 57 million versus 54.2. And that is just showing you, if you will, what your assets are. And I think that's extremely important. You go, well, Robbie, it's the same footprint. How could my assets actually be getting bigger? Well, the investment that you've made in your South Golf Course, your North Golf Course, your clubhouse back 8 years ago. Was that 8? Yes, seems like yesterday for you. Your rackets building, all of those helps, if you will, to your total assets. So interesting point as well is that the bank debt, if you will, remained unchanged. For those who read your emails, you would remember that we put together a reorganization of the long-term debt. You had a golf course loan that was supposed to be paid back in 4 years. we rolled that into the overall debt and we extended it to a 10-year note. And that's important to understand. So today, it's not here on the board, but it's going to show you that almost $2.5 million is spent every year between paying down your debt and all of the interest on it. And we can talk about that at a later stage or in your questions. But looking back in here in 2021, I think you get a sense to see how your equity is really moving in the right direction. And you notice it's not negative, right? So that's the good news. It's very, very positive. And so on a whole, as you look at that, the caption in that top right-hand corner gives a recommendation by industry consultants called Club Benchmarking. And they're saying, hey, if your club is growing by 3.5% annually, you're doing something really, really good. Look what club at Quail Ridge or your club, look at what you have done here, if you will, over the last 5 years. And so let me go back to that because I think it's just important that you see what the trend is. Do I expect that trend to continue? Probably not. Will it get back between 3.5% to 5%? Probably. But you can see your investments as you've gone on if you were to go backwards. Again, Clubhouse in 2017, South Course in 19, your Racket Center, your North Course, your Turn Station, your Starter Station. Shoot, you probably got a brand new club. So this is all very positive news. So this is always interesting. I've done this at other clubs that I've been at, and the club at Quail Ridge does that as well. Please don't gasp when you see some of the stats, okay? We're not hiding anything. We're totally transparent. This is the number of rounds that you did from October the 1st through September the 30th of last year. Okay? Beautiful. Fitness visits. Holy smokes. Divide that by 364 days a year. Tells you you're probably doing about 100 people a day. Okay? Meals served. Kind of ties back into golf rounds. Anybody see that correlation? Yeah. Tennis reservations, unbelievable, right? Almost 8,000 tennis reservations. And look at pickleball, right? Now, as I was doing this and I was reviewing it this afternoon, I said flippantly to Andy, oh my goodness, quick math would suggest that there are 8,000 tennis reservations for 16 courts. That's like 500 people a court. Look at pickleball. There are 4,000 reservations for how many courts? 4. I know people say 6, but only if you have to will you go to courts 5 and 6. So let's call it 4, right? So I saw that, if you will, correlation. And I think it's important to note because as we talk about the future, you're going to hopefully remember this slide and go, okay, now I understand why they're looking to add more pickleball courts. And then vehicles through the gate, 500,000 vehicles. Okay. Okay, important stuff, because it's just not about the club. What this is that it's to say, hey, tell me about real estate. And tell me, because that's a huge part of our makeup and component of who we are as a club. And so you saw the positive variance, but what you didn't see are probably the number of contracts and what we did, if you will, in terms of total sales. Remember, 32 this year, 35 last year, and I think it was 47 the year before. But what's important is that the financial model, which we'll talk about a little bit later, was based on 40 new members. So you can see right there, out of the gate, there was a shortfall. And so what does that mean? If all new initiation fees go to aspirational projects or go to helping with capital, if you don't hit your capital budget, we have to adjust on the fly. But we've got a great team and they can absolutely do that. So everybody says, oh my God, everybody's putting up their homes for sale. This is, what's going on? Well, here's the actual facts. Here's the data. That peak season on January the 31st, you had 31 listings compared to the previous year of 16 and 14. But I also want you to see what it looked like in 2021. And then you could see what happened, if you will, earlier this year back in September, right? So you had 34. But the key is, I think, is at the bottom. And you see 57 listings, and people will say, oh my goodness, that sounds like a lot. Well, actually, sounds like isn't really true. And so let me explain to you why. In the club business and in your club here, typically what you would have is a 5% turnover of membership every year. You've got 988 memberships. 5% of that would suggest that you should turn over about 45 memberships every year. That's what club benchmarking, industry consultants, data has suggested. So even though you may see 57, if you're expecting to have 45, if Ann were here, Ann would say you're right in the sweet spot. This is Ann Jarrett Real Estate. You're right in the sweet spot of your listings, meaning it's not a buyer's market, it's not a seller's market. You've got the right amount. And Bill suggested to me that if your number was around 50, you're in a perfect spot. If it goes to double digits, you would have an issue. And then, of course, if you had less, that would be also concerning. Concerning for people who want to get in, not concerning for us, because it means that you don't want to leave. And if you don't want to leave, you're not putting your house up for sale. So this is just data for you to see. And we've compared other communities, because I think it's important that you have a comparison to other communities, similarly to here, to see what's happening. And so, by the way, you're the leader in the clubhouse. In case everybody's saying, oh my goodness, what's happening? My values have eroded. May have eroded since the peak of the market 18 months ago, but I would still say that it's extremely strong. So, 96%. What about the average days on the market? My goodness, like, I've heard horror stories. Again, the facts are all here for you. But what we did is that we compared it to our peer group. And they too also have gone down lower, but you would see we're actually, as of 2022, below our peer market with average days on market. So I think I've done this a couple of times, but I'm going to do it here. Can you please raise your hand if you've read my Covey article? Wonderful. For those who didn't read it, there was a wonderful paragraph in there that says, we need to have patience in everything that we do. And gosh forbid, if you're leaving Quail Ridge, you need to have patience here as well. It's not going to happen overnight. But again, as a comparison to 2015, where things were really interesting, you're almost, gosh, half, not even half, a third. So over a year in terms of how long it took you to get your house sold versus what it was look like today, which is less than 100 days sold. And a little bit of listing information. And again, comparing to the total number of rooftops in the left-hand side of how many units there are in those areas, and then what it looked like in 2024 versus what it looked like in 2025. And I think it's great if you can extrapolate some information. You look at Piper's Landing, they've almost doubled. So we like to say we've gone up 50% from 4 to 6%. But again, the more I can educate you with data, and you could see the real data, it stops the rumor mill. I remember when I first got here, I felt every week somebody would come up to me and go, how many listings do you have? And by the way, I hear all of them are Canadians. The Canadians are leaving. And yet here you are, right? So please, trust the data. Okay, Quail Ridge demographics. So clearly not a young club. Right? And the joke is, who remembers when you were 40, right? So at the ripe old age of 53, I would tell you, I don't remember when I was 40. But here you go. That's me inserting myself into a different echelon. So now look at the pie. Got it? Don't do the next one, somebody says. As I have told the board, because my plan is to stay here for a very long time, I need to be forward-thinking. And so as I look forward-thinking, I then tell you that this is where it becomes a concern. Not that that's anything wrong with that, but quick math would suggest that 28%, and let me say it again, 28% of your membership is 80 years or older. Okay? That's not a bad thing. When I was at Sea Pines Country Club, had the same average ages of 72, had the same piece. But as we go along in this presentation, that's why I'm always looking towards the future, because I need to be able to replace 45 memberships every year. And what do those 45 members want? So that's your average new member age, and that's where you are today. So Brian Mervalo was kind enough to put this wonderful, if you will, summary together, because it sort of describes, if you will, what's happening in each age group. Okay? The can of tomatoes is in the back if you want to throw it behind Brian because you don't agree. Okay, so what is on the horizon? How are we looking forward? So let's wrap up, if you will, major projects. As a reminder, the North Course was done, opened up, looks fantastic, $21.5 million. Please don't shoot the messenger. I can't explain or talk about cost overruns or what was promised or what was expected. I could only give you of what's happened. The way I would view it and look at it is that, oh my goodness, you've got a fantastic new golf course. It's going to be very attractive to those who want to join the club. You have a nice divergence, if you will, between the north and the south. So anybody who's coming here to the club would say, I don't have one course, but I've got two courses, and they're different, and that appeals to me. It also works for our current membership as well. So that's something to be proud of. It was spent, if you will, built over the 3 fiscal years. You also did the South Turn building. And so Andy reminded me that you were without a South Turn building for a number of years because you did that golf course in 2019, and it didn't open until last year. It's a wonderful piece of real estate. It works. Clearly, the outside bar near the bocce courts, near the short game was too far. I always see people stopping here, and it's a great addition. And then, of course, you did the comfort stations. That's different. That's not the North Turn. The comfort stations are your restrooms that you built, because I don't view us as a type of club where we say, ooh, I see a tree. Okay? So you must build those. Okay? And we did that over 2 fiscal years. So seriously, on a serious note, now that we look forward, what are we talking about? So you've got on tap, if you will, you got the new South Turn entry. We have earmarked a dollar amount for that of $2.2 million. That was approved, if you will, in that phase 1 project. And if we can get the Palm Beach County City approval, we can then really look to start, and I can update you, if you will, on what that looks like in terms of a start date. And then we all know about the North Turn, about what's happening. You'll notice the date has not changed. It's still the end of February. And I noticed the end of, I should have put it in bold, because everybody's going, oh, I hear you're opening in February. Absolutely. End of February. Okay? We're going to do it right, and I think it's important, and that's a part of having patience. So planning. So Mr. Latham talked about updating the strategic plan. That's extremely important as we look forward as a club, as an entity. Bill McLaughlin and Brian Sutherland are your co-chairs for that. We had a wonderful 2.5-hour meeting on Tuesday, and 2.5 hours is not long by any means, because I would tell you the number of ideas that's coming out of that, and making sure we understand the process is key. You will have a save the date communication coming up, and you'll have the focus groups, as Mr. Latham said, on February 9, 10, and 11. Those are clearly important. But I can't get 988 memberships or 1,700 people into focus groups. So what we will do is that we will send you out the 12 focus groups with a category up on top, and we're going to invite you to sign up. In the event that you weren't able to get into that, as Mr. Latham talked about, we're going to pick up the phone and we're going to have a young lady call you with a script so that we can extrapolate your ideas, suggestions, feedback from that. Because we want to be able to hear from you. Instead of being in the rumor mill and go, well, I didn't get in. And so it's important to have as much data as we can get before we can then get to the member survey. Member survey is going to be early March. Please, please, please fill it out. It's going to be critical because your feedback input is going to help us with the direction of the club. Now, not all of your feedback and input is going to direct the club, because I also have to weigh what industry experts are saying, what the leadership team also know, and then try to determine a road forward. So it will be a blend, if you will. Because if you could all run the club, you would also have my office, and yes, we wear name tags. So you could have done that. But you've hired myself, the board has hired me to help you to guide your club. It's not Robbie Ames's club, and I want to be very clear about that. It's your club. But I do have the expertise to help you to make sure the club's going in the right direction. And why is that? Because if I were to go back to the slides where we saw the biggest percentage of 28% of the membership 80 years or older, at some point you're going to exit the club. And while I love the fact that you've had great times here, you really want to see a return on your investment in your real estate. You're not going to count about all of the great parties you had at the club. You want to know that you're going to get a good price for your real estate, because I believe that that's the number one asset as it pertains to you. But if I'm wrong, I'm happy to hear that it's not the most important asset. Thought so. Okay, things that we must do. You must do the L25 canal. This is not a Bill Langley project. This is not something that we're thinking about or looks good. It is absolutely necessary to do this and to keep this moving. And while we got a one-year extension, it is slated for 2027. Then you've got a relocated planned pickleball complex. The cost is to be determined because we're working the costs right now. Do we have a placeholder for it? Yes, we do. And then, of course, you got the Golf Road, Quail Ridge Drive replacement and beautification project. And so for those who don't know what I'm talking about, the L25, actually the box, if you will show pretty much the area that we've got to repair underneath both roads. Our goal is to do it, of course, in the summer when we have fewer folks here so that there's not too much of an interruption. Again, as I learned from Bill and also the meeting at Lake Worth District, is that we don't want you blocking the water coming through the property. We want it to go through the property as fast as you can. The pipe is failing. And why is it failing? Because you have an infrastructure that's almost 50 years old. So we've got to replace. So I talked about pickleball earlier. For those who don't know, in the top right-hand corner of the picture, that's actually the fitness center. And so people have termed this area as the dump. And I don't know why it ended up that way, and I'm sorry for those in the top left-hand corner. I believe that's Meadowlark, is that? Thank you, Waxwing, right? But you had lovely landscaping, and you never really saw the dump. But I'm going to call him out and say thank you to Bill McLaughlin for returning that piece of land, and we now call it the Meadow. And so pickleball was supposed to go there as part of your master plan in 2021, and it did not go very far simply because there's an easement right through the middle of the courts, and our dear neighbors at the Village of Golf were not keen on having pickleball courts there. So what did we do instead? We have a new concept. In the top left-hand corner, you see where your 4 pickleball courts are today, and the idea is to be able to add 6 courts in that area of the parking lot. And part of the project is whatever parking spaces we lose, we're going to add here at the bottom, okay, so that we don't lose parking spots. You'll have 6 new courts. And then, of course, there's a multi-use building. And I say multi-use because it provides an area to not only use the restrooms, which is extremely important. It has a water station for the pickleball players. It also has a small gazebo so they can watch the matches under the shade. And then the multi-use part, if you will, is storage. We have a storage problem here at the club. You wouldn't know that because you don't work behind the scenes, but in the heart of the house, as we describe it, it's a little tight on storage. So we need to be able to make sure that there's area for all of the pickleball equipment. We would like to put the tennis groomers there, so that's what we're proposing in this top left-hand corner, and I believe it'll be right there. There's my arrow. So here's your 4 courts, and then here's the 6 that we're adding. Okay, so don't need to describe a video. So we did this quick video just to show you a little bit of what's happening with your perimeter fencing, and that's nature at its best. You got a whitefly infestation, and I think that if I were fortunate enough to be a member here and I lived within the gates, probably not the arrival spot I was looking forward to. And so this is on your docket as part of the projects that we have in 26 and 27. Someone's going to say, well, I thought this was a pause year. Well, it is, but there was $6.6 million allocated for 4 projects. The L25 canal that I showed you, the south entry turn that you saw, a placeholder of $2.2 million, the fencing that I think needs to go as soon as we possibly can get it going, even if it's to the west of the south entry gate, because we know that will not be disturbed by the South Gate project. At least get a start on it, because it's not looking great at all. And so we did that little video to show you. So Robbie, you've talked about these projects, and I hear talks about financial models, and you just mentioned $6.6 million. How are you doing all of this, and how are you paying for it? Or are you going to use the dirty A word, which is assessment? And we are not. And so what we've done is that we've created 3 financial models for you based on 35 new member sales, 40 new member sales, and 45 new member sales. And what that does is that it allows us to continue to fund our capital and to do our projects. You've read Mr. Latham's article that he kept talking about new member initiation, aspirational projects. So I keep saying that over so everybody can understand the concept. What you pay to the club in terms of your capital dues, a lot of that is going towards the bank debt. So in case you're wondering how it goes, so it's a combination. But here's your debt. I got ahead of myself, $2.6 million. And then we've taken the remaining clubhouse assessment and CPF charges of $2.9. So the last piece here, and I will get to the other slide which will show, but please remember this number of $4.5 million. Okay, and I'm going to explain to you why that's important. But as we said, the members are of what we're going to base. So as you can see on your right-hand side, you would see, if you will, all the total new members going back to 2005. And we wanted to show you a trend as to what's happening. For me, as a new person coming in, a little concerning 23, 24, and 25. And I was scratching my head as to what was going wrong. Well, actually, nothing was going wrong, because what the consultants told us on Tuesday morning was that they have seen club turnover go from 5% to 4%. And so quick math, 988 memberships multiplied by 4, now you get 36. So it's right about what we're expecting. But I'm also hoping for the great outliers of years where we will have 67 or more slides to be able to do. So we broke it down for you as a 5-year and a 10-year medium, just to show you. I think this is an echocardiogram of like my dad after heart surgery, but you could see, right, of what is going on. But 5, 10 years, the spike, of course, as you well know, it's COVID. And I will use Andy's line, that's when we swallowed an elephant, and we took in 105 new members in 2021. Or if you like, 180 memberships in 2021 and 2022. You wouldn't expect that to continue. So that's why you've seen a little bit of a drop-off. So that was a great slide for you. And we broke it down, if you will, between full members and then, if you will, intermediate and primary members. Okay, because as a reminder, we don't do a social membership anymore, but you have those who were grandfathered. So this is the financial model that I really want us to pay attention to. What you see here is based at the top at 35 new members. The key to this slide, especially for those at home, the middle line of the bank debt, no matter how many membership sales you have, will stay the same. But what it does for us as a club is that in 26 and 27, when we spend 6.6 million, it shows you that you have zero. Robbie, do you have a disaster fund? Absolutely we do. But look at what happens come 28 and 29 and 30. If you were to do no projects, then we like to say you start to see the war chest get funded. You start to see the compounding of new members coming in and how it drives capital dollars for us to be able to do that, so I don't have to say, can I borrow some? Okay, because you have, if you will, put out a lot, but you've also gotten a great value for the dollars that you have. But going forward, this is how we would like to focus, if you will. But please note, we put the L25 in there because what happens if we had 30 new members? Right? We still have to do that. So it may, emphasis on the word may, require an assessment. But let's not get there. Let's just keep going. 40 new members. Why don't you compare the cash, if you will, in 2030 to what it looks like under 40 new members? Big difference. And if Anjara could really get going, holy smokes, look what happens in 2030. So now it's 13 million. So you have a nice building up of funds that allows us to do future things. And we were going to use, of course, the survey, the strategic plan to determine what those future things are. Okay? We were very conservative at going with the 35 new members as our model and template going forward. Didn't want to get it behind the 8 ball and start doing projects and base it off of a 45 new model. So many of you don't know me, but those on the board know me. And so by nature, I'm very conservative. I want to give you a budget that we can hit, and I want to be able to put you in the reality room. I think it's just a better way to start off with you in our relationship that way. Because 45, while looks good, I'm not sure if that can happen. And if it does, bonus. And by the way, for those who are a little bit debt adverse and think that that's too much debt, right, wrong, or indifferent, just know that if you have sales outpacing, the board can make a decision to say, let's squirrel away some funds so that when that balloon payment comes up of 4.5 million, you can decide to pay it off early. Choices. Exciting choices. So, we did this. I'm tired of graphs, but what this really shows you is what does your CPF, your capital project funds look like? What do your designated funds look like? And what does the bank debt look like? And the reason for this is to show you that there's a cross-section, either in 2030 or, if you will, just around 2031, where all of a sudden all of your funds that you've acquired is more than your debt. Again, your club, you could just say, stop, let's just pay off the debt. I would say to you, please don't. Because if you're going to wait until 2033 to do anything else, you're behind the 8 ball. You're playing catch up. So it's a constant reinvestment at all times. So, questions and answers. I would leave it there, and I will open it up to those who are on Zoom at home. I would say to you that if you would like to send your questions to membership at the club at Quail Ridge, then you have an opportunity where we will answer those questions back in 24 hours. But if you'd like to have and ask a questions, there are 2 microphones. Rochelle's got one. There's one right here. Please stand up. Tell us who you are. Tell us how long you've been a member. And then ask the question that you maybe need a little bit of clarification on. And I will premise that with saying I realize that I'm stopping you from getting to the bar early. And I recognize that, but I am here for questions.
Yeah, Mr. Radless?
If you can, there's one here and then another gentleman in the back. Sir.
My name's Clark Wadlow. I've been here since 2018. I'm on the cusp of joining that top 28%. I have a question about the initiation fee. Are you assuming a flat initiation fee, or are you assuming increases? Should we be increasing? What's the situation and the projection with the fees?
Great question. So the assumption, and a terrible word to use, but the assumption is that the initiation fee stays flat at $100,000 for your full membership, 85 and 75. And the reason for that is that I want to be very careful that we don't end up like some of our partners in the area where the initiation fee becomes so expensive that it doesn't match up to the real estate that you have. And so 60% of your real estate are of that condominium type, and so therefore it's not very high end, okay, and ranges anywhere from $225 to whoever refurbished the last one and got top dollar, right, has. But if your initiation fee tends to get a little too far out of reach, I think you then prevent new members, if you will, from coming in. So while it sounds good, because we're bundled and we're linked, I think it's very important that we watch exactly what we're doing. Now, my humble opinion is that every time you add a new project or you complete something that's new, it is ripe for an opportunity to say, I think we should increase the initiation fee. So, does that answer your question? Yes, thank you. Sir, in the back?
2 or 3 questions. First of all, are the pickleball courts going to be lighted? That's number one. Number two, you have talked about debt, and what's important to us is the cash flow, not necessarily the equity. And you have no new projects in there to talk about what the cash flow may be going forward, because it looks like you're able to pay down the debt, and you got to have positive cash flow instead of just equity. And then lastly, I heard that we are hiring or already have hired, and this may be totally incorrect, a long-range planning person. We're paying somebody for that to help with the study. Thank you for getting input from the membership. What does the consultant do, and how much are we paying the consultant?
Okay, great question. Can I just get your name so the audience can hear? Can I get your name so the audience knows?
I'm sorry, I'm Steve Ashworth.
Thank you, Mr. Ashworth. So let me start with pickleball lights. What we have is that we have a concept right now. Not certain that we want to light it because I want to be, if you will, cognizant of our neighbors who live in Kittywick. And I would say if we do decide to light it, it will probably be the court that is furthest south, which is right in line with where the tennis courts of 1, 2, and 3, and 4 are, and it's lit. So if I had to choose one, as I'm thinking about this on my feet, that would probably be it. So secondly, I've forgotten your questions already, but you talked about the debt. And so the no new projects of 26 and 27, right? Again, you do have projects, those $6.6 million worth of projects. But 2028 is when you start to regenerate the funds, and that's where, at that point, the strategic plan would be baked, and we would decide of where we're going forward and what things you, the members, would like to see, balanced with what new members would want to have in order to come and join the club. Excuse me. The last part, if you will, of the cash flow is that the balance sheet looks extremely positive. And I've got a wonderful CFO partner who guides us and reminds us not to get over our skis. And we're just very cognizant of every dollar that we're spending. And then lastly, in terms of your strategic planning, yes, we hired a firm called Club Benchmarking. They are based out of Boston. The CEO is a former general manager, chief operating officer at Gray Oaks as well, in the developer stage, as well as running it. It is not one person. It's a group of 40 people plus at Club Benchmarking, and they do this for several other clubs, and they're the one who are helping us drive this process. And so we signed an agreement that I believe was $82,000 for the 1 year, if you will, engagement for us as a club. And they're handling all of the focus groups, they're handling the survey. They've had not 1, but 2 meetings with the Long Range Planning Committee. So it's going very well thus far. You're very quiet on this side of the room. There is a microphone. Really? Sir?
Jean Dion, a member since 21. Question regarding the pickleball project. Did you look at other options for the additional courts? And what was the cost analysis there, or cost difference?
So we have not gotten to a final cost number, but I would say in terms of other options, you had option A on the left and option B on the right. I am not aware of any other areas that we can put it. And I think you want to be able to have it as close as a racket center building because of proximity, because then it screams rackets. But you also want it to be segregated from tennis because you want to pay homage and you want to honor the tennis players by making sure that it's not right next to them as they're playing, right? So, is that okay?
Good sound.
Sorry. So the reason for that location was that there just wasn't a whole lot of room anywhere else to put it. And by putting it in the parking lot, it really sets up for future projects here on the left side of the screen, which is the meadow, in the event that you wanted to do something there. And so it would be a shame that if you had 4 pickleball courts there and another 6 or so somewhere else, and it's segregated, then you've lost the social interaction, you've lost the gathering, you've lost the fun out of it. So while we did look at tennis courts as a possible option, it was something that, you know, within the first 4 months, I'm not sure I want to go down that rabbit hole of, right? Because it really could create a division amongst the club. So I think from a noise perspective and aesthetic standpoint, you have your 6 there. And should you choose to see, which is what we're seeing with the game of pickleball, where it's expanding, and you want to then go take tennis courts, you fight that battle then. One man's opinion, but guided by what we have. If we can get him a microphone, please, Mr. Ricci. Ah, sir.
I'm Frank Donato. I've been a member since 2018. I'm concerned about screening of the new development adjacent to the North Course. We now look at a new apartment complex. Is there going to be some kind of a screening so we see flowers or trees or whatever?
Right. So we have done our screening on the inside of the perimeter already. You've seen that. You're watching it grow. It is not to full maturity as yet. And so I realize that it's not a good look at all. And it's something that you've never seen before. And so that's a shame. But for us to go, if you will, throw good money after bad, meaning let's just go buy fully mature trees and go spend a lot of dollars, I much rather wait to see the complex painted, see what that looks like, and then wait for them to put in their, if you will, plantings and landscaping. So once they have put in their landscaping, I'd like to then reevaluate it and see what would be best course forward.
So I take it that there's no provision for them to provide screening as part of their development.
Oh, no, there's provision. They just haven't done it as yet because they're still in the building phase.
Do you know what kind of screening they're going to?
I don't. I have not seen the plans. But I know Bill Langley was very good to fight for making sure that there was a setback and that there was a good landscaping plan in place. Sir.
Hi, Robbie.
Hi.
My name's Gene Magnan. I've been here since 2020. And I was wondering about the summer membership. Are we, there's, opportunities. I think it's pretty quiet in the summer here. Are we expanding the number of members in the summer?
So today you've got budgeted, and what the number you did last year for summer memberships were 175. I think it's important to remember that during the summer, every month we've got one of the courses closed. And so I would not advise or counsel you to do more. While it sounds great because you may be away in Canada and enjoying your club back there, for those who live here year-round, which is approximately 30%, or if you will, 300 doors or 300 memberships, I would like to go the other way and see if, A, we can charge more and actually have less number of summer memberships.
Okay.
Wow, okay.
So you're going to charge more?
That would be the plan, and that's something that we reevaluate next month ahead of, if you will, when we release the information.
Thank you.
And by the way, those were clapping. Thank you to the residents. I know who you are. There's a gentleman there, and then we need a microphone here, if you will, Rochelle, in the front. Sir.
Sure. I'm Bill Hayden. We've been members here since 2006. I had a question about, and I was 15 minutes late for the meeting, so I apologize if it's been covered, but the new fencing that's gone up around the perimeter, in the absence of the barbed coral wire on the top, I've been told that it's either because of a local ordinance or a state statute. Maybe they're afraid of hurting the criminals as they climb over the fence. But is there a new security system planned or in place to deal with the absence of that?
So I'm not sure about the ordinances. And in terms of the fencing that we've put in, I know they're going to have their own fencing inside. You're referring to the apartment complex, is that correct?
No, I'm
Just
talking
something.
about the fencing throughout the perimeter.
Okay, good question. So yes, so we have invested, if you will, in 13 cameras that have been installed around the property. I think if I remember correctly, 8 of them are, if you will, fixed cameras that are installed right now and we're able to see, and they pick up on the certain, if you will, weak spots that we had. And then we are waiting on 5 more cameras that are more high-tech, if you will, called a pan tilt zoom camera that would allow us. But yes, there's 70% of it is in place, and knock on wood, we have not heard of any, if you will, security breaches.
Okay, thank you.
You're very welcome. Sir.
Fergus McCann, 2016. Is there any expectation with the new 10 pickleball courts that there will be a reduction in occupancy demand on the 2 golf courses?
Well, that's a great question, and it's almost like you've been in my hamster wheel, because that's going to be one of the selling points that we think works. And the reason for that is that if you have 6 more pickleball courts, you would think that if somebody wanted to do that in the morning versus saying, well, I can't even get on the pickleball courts, let me just go play golf. If we can have people gravitating or migrating, if you will, to the pickleball courts, we would hope that that would ease demand. But it's hard for me to say that without seeing exactly what's going to happen in the future. Well, yes, life is, and looking into the future it is, yeah. But those who are new members who are coming in, we would tell you that they're not necessarily as golf focused as you were when you joined the club. And I'm just not pulling that out of the hat. That's fact. They want a wider array of amenities that they could use, and there's actually the term, which is they want shorter durational recreational amenities. And why shorter? Because I don't have time for 4.5 hours for golf. I'm still working. I want to be in and out. So pickleball, tennis, fitness, swimming, that is what appeals to them. So they're not playing as many rounds of golf. So if we don't have those amenities, you're not going to be able to attract them. But to your point, yes, you would hope that by adding the pickleball courts, you would see some ease, if you will, in the number of golf rounds. Okay. Was there a follow-up question, sir? There's one here. Sorry. Rochelle.
Abby Newthaler,
Say it up there.
joined the club in 2015.
Thank you.
Is there any talk about padel courts?
Great question.
Padel is a sport,
Okay.
not paddle, it's padel.
Yes.
let
So
you explain.
padel is, if you will, a mixture of pickleball with squash with glass walls. And it sounds dangerous to you all, but it is also another fast-growing sport. We're going to wait for the survey to determine and see, if you will. I would say to you that padel tends to skew a little bit younger of those who want to play it versus pickleball, but we are very cognizant of that. And like I talked about, that in the event that pickleball or rackets needed to expand, you have the possibility, don't quote me on this, where you have tennis courts to possibly use in the future. So, yes, I think it's on,
Gail Bogle.
Mrs. Bogle.
I'm not sure when I joined. I'm too old. But I have a question. There's a horse farm that's adjacent to our property. Are there any plans to purchase that horse farm so we don't end up with whatever it is, so we don't end up with a building? Curious.
Great. The horse farm, if you will, that she's referring to on your left picture is in the southwest corner next to the lift station. It is owned by a member by the name of Carleen Blunt, and she's a member of the Village of Gulf. She is the proud owner of that property. And in short, that's an absolute great vision that we have to look at it. We just have to be able to determine if she's willing to part with it. And if you do you do it all on your own, or do you do it with the help of Village of Gulf and Delray Dunes? And do you have the resources, the financial resources, in order to make her a deal or a transaction that works? So, as you may or may not know, her nephew's cousin or something to that effect was a gentleman out of Chicago who helped with the development of where today Publix is, that whole development in the corner. That used to be her land as well. So it will be a fight. But if you know her, and I have met her in person, so I look forward to meeting her again to have that said discussion. Carleen Blunt is her name. Yes. There's one gentleman in the back there who needs a microphone. Sir.
Yeah,
go
so
ahead.
Bob Kazarian, member since 21. So my question is about the athletic facilities, the gym, and the locker rooms. Some of us think that needs some expansion. What are your thoughts on that, or what's the thinking on that in general?
My thinking is that I totally agree. The issue is that we're going to have to crawl, walk, run. And so we've got to do the 4 projects that we had first, unless, of course, you as a membership decide to flip it all upside down. So the survey is going to tell us as a group what's your number 1 priority. And so that will help the board to determine the order of which we should do things. But back to my comment about recreational activities and keeping the membership here, okay, health, wellness, fitness is huge. And yes, it's too small, especially for the 35,000 visits that you have. And yes, I've seen what compaction looks like, not only on the golf course, but in that fitness center. It is too small. To go expand it after it's been expanded not once but twice, which you probably don't know as a new member, I think it's time that you look at something holistically that you can then go ahead and develop. And that's something that I've shared with the board in terms of my vision. But it's just Robbie's vision. It's your club. So your vision as well. He's looking for 980 other people to join him. All right. The survey will absolutely tell us. Sir.
I'm thinking of your demographic chart,
Yes.
and I'm thinking of the age groups.
Yes.
And I'm thinking of the fact that the construction of the North Course. When I first came here in 2001, I played golf with a lot of old people. Now I find I'm playing with my contemporaries. I think we have to have reality of the demographics as we go into various constructions, whether it be the North Course or the range or any other of the facilities that we have here. So I just ask that we consider the demographics as to how that percentage is, 70 and 80-year-olds.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, thank you. I appreciate the feedback. And it's a balance, right? How do you attract the next new member and make sure the amenities are relevant by also at the same time keeping you? And oh, by the way, if you don't upgrade and you don't do anything, look at the amount of folks that you could possibly see exiting the club. So definitely a balance as you go along. Got a microphone? Perfect.
I am Pat Starshak. I have been here since God was a child. As the elite
Great analogy.
28%, I just want to thank you for the automatic door that now opens the club.
Well, you're very welcome, and I can't take full credit for it. I must actually thank Robbie and Rochelle and Ghani, and they actually pulled on my shirt and go, "Do you want a home run really early in your tenure here? Put that in." And I went, "Okay, I hear you. Just do X number percentage more, and that way I can pay for it." But no, thank you for that. It's been a welcome addition, if you will. Okay, sir.
My name is Dan Crease. We've been a member since, I think, 2017. So how do you balance wanting to keep current with new members, and we want to attract new members, balancing that with not losing the soul of what Quail Ridge is? Well, we're not, do we want to be something for everybody, or do we want to be something for those folks that see the world the way we do it? So please comment on that.
Sure. It's a delicate balance. It is something that the board's going to help guide me, and I'm going to help guide them. But again, the survey is going to give us that information. It's important to just recognize, if you will, the average age of those who are joining at 60s. There's some who join at 60, 55, or a little bit older. I've finally retired. I've got my 401k, if you will, all buttoned up, and my retirement is good, and I can afford this. I'm not here to change the culture of the club. I'm only here to make the club better, because once you start messing with the culture, it all goes downhill. So did you know, and I'm not sure how you joined the club, and I'd love to ask you that follow-up question, but 92% of all new members come through referrals. Because you love it here so much, you want to bring your friends. If I quote Mr. Latham, he goes, "I've been here 20 plus years as an octogenarian, and I've brought all my friends, and I have no more to bring." Would that be a correct statement, Mr. Latham? A quarter of Rhode Island is here, right? And so the same is for the Canadians as well, right? You have brought your friends. So I don't want to lose sight of that. So the survey is going to be a wonderful opportunity mix to hear what you're thinking of the club today. What's the membership satisfaction? What would you like to see as we operate daily? What things could we improve on? What things you don't want to change? But it's going to ask you one important question at the very beginning, which is, how likely are you to recommend the club at Quail Ridge to your friends? And that comes into something called the Net Promoter Score. And that's what we got to be cognizant of. So join me for the ride. We'll figure it out together. Sir. Microphone coming.
Right over here.
Enjoy the music while you hold.
Hi, I'm John Bello, and I've been a member since I think it was Obama beat Romney, so that was 2012. So
I don't
anyway.
talk politics, Mr. Bello, but thank you.
Okay. Anyway, I've got a couple of questions. One is a large amount of money, one is a very small amount of money. Now, did you say the debt was, is it $23 million?
No, sir.
What's the total?
Today, after the last payment, you're at 18.75 million.
Even better.
Yes,
so
sir.
I was calculating on 23 million. I think that's, so it's only like $20,000 or $20-something thousand per key, right? Is my math right?
I'd have to put out my calculator, but sounds
It
plausible.
says, so 20, whatever, million sounds like a lot, but the amount per door or per key is pretty small. In fact, I think a used Beverly Hillbilly pickup goes for about that much money. So if we could pay off the debt, I think, fairly easily if we had to. So I don't think it's any big concern.
Okay.
And so I have a couple other things, like, have you considered paddleball or pickleball being indoor, being 2 stories, with fitness above it? Is that something you're considering or thought about?
For those who know me, that sounds like the Taj Mahal. Second question first. I would say that the strategic planning committee, long-range planning committee, sorry, gentlemen and ladies, we're going to take them on a little bit of a tour to see other clubs, because long-range planning and strategic planning should be about a blank piece of paper, and you should have a vision. And as I've said to people, you can't have a vision that everything you want to be included and then match it to the money that you have, right? You got to go figure out how to raise that money in order to get what it is that you want. And if it means waiting a year or two to do it right, then you should do so. So yes, we have thought about it. We've thought about, if you will, a cover with maybe open sides and not necessarily an indoor building. But as you may have a friend or two that is at Marisol, and they're doing an indoor pickleball facility. It's amazing, but it's 6.6 million. And I'm not sure we have that. And I'm not sure the pickleballers are going to wait until 2030 in order to do it right. So that's one question. The second question is I'm not sure if it was a question or a statement, because if it's a question, I would say don't ask me. You got to ask your fellow members if they want to write a check for $20,000 to wipe out the debt. So I'll go quiet, and your fellow members can answer you.
Show of hands. Okay. Okay, I said the last question was a very small amount of money.
It was.
Probably less than $10. How about a shoehorn in the fitness center locker room? You know, a long one.
A
shoehorn.
Like the old days when you needed to put on your golf shoes and you couldn't, you weren't flexible enough, if you will, to get there, you would have a shoehorn. I'm sure we can figure that out.
There used to be
Bello.
one.
Okay. So I've got people leaving, so penultimate question or last question. There's one more right here, Robbie or Rochelle. Microphone's coming to you.
I've been told I'm loud, so I don't think I need a mic.
Project away.
And mine's Bill Franks. I've been a member since 2010, I think. And I said I wasn't going to ask this question, but I am. As I look at those numbers, we got 50. As I look at those numbers, we got 50+%, 70 and above, right?
Almost, yes.
And
With
then
the
we've
average
got
age
a
of
number
72.
of grandfathered social members as well, correct?
I think around 60, but declining, yes, every year.
So those two numbers are playing, I hope, a whole bunch of golf, but maybe they aren't. The people replacing them will play a whole bunch of golf.
Sure.
How is that, and I understand the need for new members. I'm still concerned about, are we going to continue to sell full golf memberships? How are we going to deal with the compaction issue that makes this place a question mark?
Yes, so that's a wonderful question. And so in my interview here to become the next general manager, that was something that jumped out at me as well. And so the question and the line that I've used with the board is, you've got to figure out who do you want to be. And until you figure that out as a group and you tell me, only then can we make substantive changes. And I mean that in all total respect and politeness and kindness. You play a lot of golf. You love it, and that's great. However, the point of new members coming in, replacing members who are not, that happens all the time. We need to take a holistic view as to, do we have too many full members? Is there room in the primary category or the intermediate category? And by the way, the social category, they don't have access to golf, so they're not playing, to your point. So it leaves a great future to be able to look to say, do you want to have a social membership? Or if you want, call it a sports membership that has no access to golf. Not on weekends, not after 2 p.m., not just no access to golf. And then that way you can determine, if you will, how many people have access to golf, which in turn will lead to how many golf rounds you will end up doing. So in first 4.5 months, I can't have that conversation as yet. But it's something that I know the board is very wary of, and they see it. And they see it especially when I put up the slide of the number of golf rounds. I think somebody said, that's not true. Well, okay. So that's the data. So it's to figure it out. You're very welcome. That's it? So you know where the bar is, and you know where we're having dinner. And thank you to Andy Translow and Jordan Fleming for putting together this amazing, amazing presentation.